What is he doing now?
This is what they call chillin'.
In Living Color has moved to Sunday.
Well, I heard that I screamed like a white lady in church.
People magazine calls it riotously energetic.
Welcome to Ted Turner's Colorized Classics.
And recklessly funny.
Of all the jive joints in the world, she'd bring a big butt into mine.
Prime time we go with the hey you jive turkey. What do you say, bro? We are whiter than snow. We're brothers who are brothers, and we have our own show.
Hey, Tom.
Yes, Tom?
Wait, how can we both be named Tom?
Easy. We're named after our uncle. Oh, boy.
Gotta wrap them up in newspaper to take them to Sunday school. You see that little one down there? That little one? No, the one down there with the snot in his nose. That's my little godson, Chucky. Hey, Chucky! Hey, Chuckster! Hey, Chucky, what you doing? You gonna give your godmother a kiss?
And putting on some of those leather chaps and joining in a cattle drive. I love this film. All that dust and perspiration. I got saddle sore just watching it. You want to see?
No. I didn't really pay much attention because once they started with the cows and stuff, I just got into my girl. I had this young lady with me. We was like macking it out and stuff.
Everybody got what they wanted.
8 feet in my back mold. How would you get it out?
Well, Wanda, I'd just add a little hot sauce to set your mouth on fire.
Hey,
And then I'd put my lips around yours.
word up.
And I would suck until your forehead caved the hell in.
Undoubtedly, it is great and funny. He goes, but we just don't think we can air this. He said, what I'd like to do is I'd like to take out the following sketches, and he wanted to take out the Homeboy Shopping Network, Men on Film, and Wrath of Farrakhan.
When it comes to sketch and variety shows, there are a few that I would definitely name my favorite. The Carol Burnett Show, Rowan and Martin's Laugh-In, The Chris Rock Show, which I find to be severely underrated, definitely Chappelle's Show, Saturday Night Live. But I'm going to be real, even though I like Saturday Night Live, I mostly prefer the not so ready for primetime players. Like 1975 up until like 1980, everything else to me has been hit or miss. But yeah, those are my favorite sketch shows. However, there's one sketch comedy show that I would put slightly above the rest for its more edgy humor, and that would be In Living Color. In Living Color to me is untouchable when it comes to sketch comedy shows. You know, it was loud, it was creative, it was funny. Like, it was just pretty much a revolutionary. It ran in Foxx network from April 15th, 1990 to May 19th, 1994. And it was created by Keenan Ivory Wayans. And it was crazy too because, you know, not only did Keenan Ivory Wayans really put out some of the most talented comics and actors, he also, you know, put his whole family on too. You know what I'm saying? Like, some of the names included are Tommy Davison, Jim Carrey, Kelly Cofield, Jamie Foxx, you know, so on and so on. And then when it came to the Wayans, you know, you had Damon, Kim, Sean, and Marlon Wayans too. And what's also interesting about In Living Color was the fact that it was pretty much a transitional kind of humor, you know, away from the 80s, you know, conservative, like Cosby-led shows, and now we're more into the 90s where you have more cutting edge, in-your-face humor. And In Living Color was one of the shows that broke down barriers. And if it wasn't for shows like In Living Color, we wouldn't have shows like, you know, Martin. You know, we wouldn't have shows, of course, like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, just for those hip-hop elements when it came to network television. And what was also interesting about In Living Color was the fact that it also introduced us to the Fly Girls. The Fly Girls definitely played a part, in Living Color. Some of the known Fly Girls that came out were Carrie Ann Inaba, who you guys should know, she's like the choreographer and judge on Dancing with the Stars. Rosie Perez was actually a choreographer in the first 4 seasons. And you guys should definitely know Deidre Lang, who was like the longest serving Fly Girl. She was in all 5 seasons. And of course, Jennifer Lopez. Everyone knows Jennifer Lopez at this point. But despite the impact that In Living Color left in pop culture, people fail to realize that it was a battleground for censorship in the powers to be. People wanted to take control of the show. People wanted to take Keenen Ivory Wayans' vision. Certain egos got inflated. And this is definitely going to be a story about how the Wayans pretty much left In Living Color. Now, you guys should definitely know this before I start this video. 1, this video is technically split into 3 videos because it took me a long time to really get this shit together, and I'm actually going to do a part 2, well, technically a special video called like people that In Living Color pissed off. I'm going to talk about, certain rappers, celebrities that didn't really take too kindly about certain sketches. And then further down the line, coming 2022, I'm going to talk about the incident issue between Keenen Ivory Wayans and Arsenio Hall. And one more thing before I start the video. Most of my research for this video came from the book Homie Don't Play That, the story of In Living Color and the Black Comedy Revolution. This was written by David Pisner. Very, very, very good book. It talks about the history of In Living Color, and he talked about the roots about how, Keenen Ivory Wayans, got, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, and then talked about like the Black Pack. Definitely highly recommended if you love In Living Color. Hi, my name is Reg, and welcome to another episode of Why the Beef. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about In Living Color, the Wayans versus Foxx. Now, let me tell y'all who the cast was during the first season. Of course, we have Jim Carrey. We all should know about Jim Carrey at this point. We have Kelly Caulfield, very underrated comedian. We had Kim Cole. You guys should probably know she was on Living Single. She was only on the show for the first season, but she ended up leaving due to creative differences. We have Tommy Davison, another very good comedian, been in a lot of movies, shows. We have David Allen motherfucking Greer. Again, another very underrated comedian in my opinion, very versatile. We have Takia Crystal Kima, very dope actress, comedian. She was on shows like, Cosby, but I feel like she's best known as Tanya from That's So Raven. And now when it came to the Wayans, we had Damon Wayans, of course, we had Kim Wayans, and we also had Sean Wayans, who was, the DJ at that time, SW1. Alright, so let's start the story in 1991. Fox president Jamie Kellner, he was, talking about the Super Bowl because, at that time, CBS had the rights to the next one. So what had happened was they were trying to capitalize on the halftime shows because, back in that time, halftime shows was not really the major event as it is recognized now and whatnot. Usually halftime shows will probably just have like some theater production or some artsy kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? So they wanted to have a special episode of In Living Color Thing is, it was going to be live, so nobody has ever thought of this before. And the idea for the formulator during like a phone conversation between Jay Coleman and Eric Gold, who Jay Coleman was actually Keenan's manager at that time, and they were trying to get the big names to perform, and they were in talks of actually getting MC Hammer to do the halftime show, but at that time, you know, Hammer was not really fucking with In Living Color like that, which I'm gonna save that story when I talk about the people that In Living Color pissed off. So, you know, they wanted to do the live halftime show, but at the same time, people were kind of worried because, you know, at that time, In Living Color was like the cutting edge show, the raw show, you know what I'm saying? In other words, it was a show that was basically too black for the halftime show, pretty much. What ended up happening was, you know, they all weekended and the halftime show pretty much happened. They pretty much brought out some of the best characters, you know. They had the Homeboy Shopping Network. They had, of course, Fire Marshal Bill in the sports bar. Very funny sketch. Background Guy, the Jim Carrey sketch and shit too. But it was the infamous Men on Football sketch that really caught people's attention because of the fact that, you know, with the Men on Intern here characters, both played by David Allen Greer and Damon Wayans, you know, they would definitely have like a lot of double entendres, you know what I'm saying? And with this one, they definitely went in because of the fact that they talked about, you know, football player Joe Namath, who was married at that time, and they said that he was wearing pantyhose and stuff like that in a TV commercial. They went in on Carl Lewis too. They said, and I quote, "You know why Carl runs so fast? You can run, but you can't hide from your true self, Miss Lewis," referring that Carl Lewis was gay. And this sketch was what really was controversial because In Living Color was always, you know, doing like certain controversial, getting people talking, but this was one of the few times where it was just like major controversy. The football players, you know, they definitely had an issue with them being called out and whatnot. So other than that, you know, the halftime show was still pretty much one of the peaks of In Living Color's popularity. And it's kind of crazy because if it wasn't for that halftime show, we wouldn't have, you know, Michael Jackson doing his halftime show, you know what I'm saying? And the rest is history.
We're going to give you absolutely free this job NFL vitamins.
That's right. Within 6 months, you'll be wearing these bad boys like pinky rings.
Uh-oh, I think I just sprung a leak. And speaking of football, let's bring back that Joe Namath. I mean, I'll never forget the time when he put on those pantyhose on national television. It must have taken so much courage for him to come out and say, "This is me, this is who I am. Call me Broadway Joe, because that's how I do it. The Broadway." Time out. Now, you got to reverse that call. Joe Namath is married. Hello? Well, so is Richard Gere, and you should have seen that German in the wedding dress.
Now, I'm very confused about this part of the game.
Never played this one before.
All you have to do is stay high and take the little blue ball and start running.
But isn't that going to hurt you?
So after the end of the Super Bowl show, you know, In Living Color was at a peak of its popularity. So you know what that means? That means that Fox wanted to capitalize on it by having more episodes filling in their Fox schedule with In Living Color reruns. This didn't really sit well, you know, with Keenan and Ivory Wayans because this was really the beginning of them, you know, repackaging his stuff and then, you know, censoring certain jokes and whatnot too. And it was also around this time too that in February of 1992, Barry Diller, you know, he resigned from the chairmanship at Fox. This was kind of crucial too because, you know, Barry Diller was one of the people that actually, you know, stood up for In Living Color and tried to push for it. And so around this time too, you know, with In Living Color third season, Fox wanted more and more episodes, and they wanted like to have like clip shows, you know, blooper shows, you know what I'm saying?
I tried out 8 times. Then Miss Demise decided she better go on and better herself. So while these heifers were out there making babies and selling pumpkin seeds, Miss Bonita was in the boiler's room. I was whipping me up some pig feet and some cornbread, selling that, and trying to come up with a funny line to make this audience laugh.
Fasten your seatbelts. The bad boys of comedy are about to show you the funniest outtakes and bleepers.
And this caused strain to the writers of the show because of the fact that they had to feel like they're coming up with stuff on a drop of a dime and whatnot. And so this caused like a lot of frustration in the writer's room. And that wasn't the only cause of frustration, because you actually had certain cast members who were, you know, getting into it as well too. And so one of the times where the cast pretty much imploded was between Keenan Ivory Wayans and Jim Carrey. So this was pretty much happened when there was a table read, and it's like a lot of different stories within what really happened on that table read from like a lot of people. So what happened was that they were rehearsing for a sketch, and it is said that the sketch was a Sergeant Stacey Koon sketch. And what had happened was, so the roots of this confrontation happened after Jim Carrey was playing a Sergeant Stacey Koon sketch. And you guys know who Stacey Koon is, one of the cops that beat Rodney King. And even though that the sketch was filmed, they had to shelve it, and Jim Carrey, he was not really cool about that. He felt that Keenan Ivory Wayans wasn't really giving him his fair shake at the ideas, you know. While they were rehearsing for the sketch, Jim Carrey, it was time for him to say his line. He stood up, pointed his ass at Keenan, and pretty much read the part from his ass, pretty much. And so it was like a shock reaction because nobody really stood up to Keenan Ivory Wayans like that. So what happened was, you know, Keenan Ivory Wayans, you know, he stood up, and it looked like him and Carrey were about to come into blows until, you know, his manager pretty much broke it up. I've got his ass in my face, pointing at Keenan, and he's moving his ass muscles. Keenan's a very dignified man, and by the way, about 6'4". He gets up, he's ready to take Jim out. Jim gets up, he too is 6'2" or 6'3" and not afraid of anything. These guys are going to come to blows, unquote. And so, you know, it ended up, you know, both of them pretty much, you know, just talking it out, you know, apologizing to one another and just moving on. But Jim Carrey himself, he said that he wasn't a Stacey Koon sketch that caused him to do. He even said that he doesn't remember who the character was that was showed. And the interesting thing about this notion was the fact that this was one of the key scenes like that inspired Jim Carrey to do on his 1994 movie Ace Ventura Pet Detective. Also around this time too, you know, Jamie Foxx came into the cast, and you know, you also had Shawn Wayans in the cast too. And you know, Jamie Foxx pretty much, when he came onto the show, he had a way of like fucking with like a lot of the people, most specifically Tommy Davison too, which I'm gonna get more into that story, you know, towards, you know, when we talk about this video and shit too. So yeah, man, and it's like around this time, you know, Tommy Davison always felt like he always was like the guy that got like the worst part of the sketches and stuff like that too, ridiculed more. And so, you know, also around this time too, you know,
Didn't use any protection. No protection. See, this is why I'm endorsing the Cosby condom.
and Living Color was about to face its next big shape up when Damon Wayans pretty much had plans on leaving the show. And so pretty much around this time too, you know, Damon Wayans was working on movies like, you know, Mo Money. And there's been like a lot of rumors at this time too that Keenan was jealous of Damon Wayans because, you know, Damon Wayans was pretty much the popular characters like Homer the Clown, Anton Jackson, you know, they were pretty much all created by him. And it's like next to Jim Carrey, the funniest motherfucker in my opinion was like Damon Wayans and shit too. So, but Damon, he even said that he just wanted to do more opportunities. And even Keenan Wayans said that there was no sibling rivalry or anything like that. It's family at the end of the day. At the end of the third season, you know, they pretty much had Damon Wayans leaving the show, having a nice little send-off or whatnot, and just going into his limo and just driving off.
This is the end of our season. We had a great year, and thank you all for watching.
It's a very bittersweet moment here on Living Color. We want to say goodbye to one of our cast members, Damon Wayans, on his way to a superstar movie career. We had great times, and we wish, of course, we wish him the best. And come back and visit sometime. Love you.
Maybe we should sit down.
Damn it, Doc! Give it to me straight.
His hands and his feet.
Oh, God!
We were able to save his ears.
Tell me to.
Tyrell? Oh, yeah. Yo, look, just don't be pissing me off, all right?
Season 4 was a pretty transitional year when it came to In Living Color. For one, this was the year when Marlon Wayans came on to the season, and then you also had Alexander Wentworth. The cast pretty much wanted like cast negotiations, you know what I'm saying? They pretty much held out, and Keenen Ivory Wayans actually granted them the negotiations and whatnot too. But another interesting thing about season 4 was the time that around this time, you know, the LA riots had just happened, and people were still, you know, talking about that, you know, still heavy on people's minds. So you notice that like a lot more sketches, you know, definitely talk more about the LA riot and, you know, the whole Rodney King situation. Now,
Past month, you was up against the wall, assuming a position. You had to school up about the police twice. Hold up. I can even tell you exactly what the police said, right? Right. You fit the description of somebody we looking for. Yeah. Step away from the vehicle. Yeah. Sit your butt. Yeah. Put your hand behind your neck. Yeah. You got any drugs in this car? That's what he said. You look like you high on PCP. Yeah. You associate with any known gang members? Hell yeah. What, you in the car with Rodney King? Oh, man.
interesting enough, Asian cast member Steve Park, his contract was not renewed for season 4 because, you know, Wills were beginning to go at it and stuff like that. You know, Steve Park pretty much felt that he was just a commodity during like the whole battle of power. So he said, and I quote, "Keenen said my manager was playing hardball, demanding more money. I think Keenen was really struggling with Foxx and was like, screw it, just let him go." Steve Park would eventually marry, you know, cast member Kelly Caulfield and years later and shit. So, you know, the season 4 pretty much, you know, started off, you know, with some sketches and stuff like that. You know, you had more sketches like the classic Def Comedy Jam sketch, which, in my opinion, one of the funniest sketches that they've done.
Look at you and say, "What's up, bro?"
But see, you didn't call C, and then that, you know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.
So move over, Showtime at the Apollo, because the Def Jam Comedy Hour is in your face.
You know, you also had that sketch where they had Jim Carrey playing the Juice Man. You know, of course, you know, the whole Sergeant Coon sketch and shit. But, you know, you also had, you know, a lot more competition about which writer was going to write for which cast member. And so, you know, Marlon Wayans, you know, he talked about his time in Living Color. And he said that pretty much when they first came on the show, you know, when he first came, people were barely writing for him or Sean. So Marlon pretty much took more of a writer's approach. You know, one of my favorite sketches that they've done was when both him and Sean play like these ratchet ass guys. I think his name was like Snuff and Lucifer's. You know, y'all know what I'm talking about and shit, you know.
Baby. Yo, Slim, you talking to my girl or what, huh? Uh-oh, Snow. Uh-oh, looks like you got company. What you do? What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna whoop you so bad your mama's gonna feel it. That's what's gonna happen. Oh, my mom! Yeah.
But it's kind of crazy too because the first episode of the 4th season was actually the last on-screen appearance of Keenen Ivory Wayans. And it's interesting enough because if you watch his appearance, you know, He's all bald, he's wearing shades, he just looked like he just completely, it's like in contrast of, in the earlier days when he has the vibrant colors, he's smiling more and stuff like that, around this time it just looked like, yeah, just getting it over with and shit like that too. Just watch that episode and you'll know what I'm talking about.
To a new season of In Living Color. Thanks for joining us tonight. Got a whole lot of new things for y'all, starting with the new additions to the Fly Girls. I'm gonna start here with the OG Fly Girl right here. This is Deidre Lang from Plainsfield, New Jersey. Give it up. Standing next to her is our latest addition from Uptown, New York, Josie Harris. And from Oakley, California, Lisa Thompson. And last year's new addition from Boogie Down Bronx, Jennifer Lopez. We got some new cast members for you to meet. I want you to meet a very talented comedic actress. Come on out here, Allie. Alexandria Whitworth. And just when you thought it was over, you got another one. He's the baby of the bunch. You saw him in Mo Money. He's hanging with his big brother now. Come on out here, Marlon Wayne.
But as the season went on, you had more and more cracks coming along. Cast members definitely wanted to find something else to do because they wondered how long were they going to stay on this show. Jim Carrey pointed out where he said, and I quote, "Season 4 was a turning point. A lot of people started thinking about where am I going to go from here. It becomes like a family. There's certain people in my family I'm not so close to because we've just had too much time together in a high pressure situation. And Keenan was an easy boss to work for. A lot of times he made us dig a hole, fill the hole, dig the hole, and fill the hole. There was a little infighting going on. There was a couple times I'd show up in a sketch with black sunglasses on and completely burn the sketch out. Then Kim would show up in one of my sketches wearing black sunglasses, obviously not committed at all." Unquote. Tommy Davison also was going through his own ordeals, where around this time he started getting into substance abuse. And around like the mid-4th season, he actually temporarily left the show because of, trying to get himself treatment, trying to get himself better. And even though he did cite Keenan as like some of the issues, especially when it came to like, his anxiety and whatnot, he did see Keenan as part of the solution because Keenan wanted him to get better. He wanted him to take as much time as he wanted to get himself better. With Tommy Davison, not in the cast like that, you had Damon Wayans, who at that time, he was brought in by special guest appearances because the ratings was kind of going down a little bit in season 4. And so when he came to the show for them guest appearances, it had like a little uptick when it came to the ratings too. So now, despite the growing problems that was happening behind the scenes, Keenan Ivan Wayans was still dissatisfied with Foxx purposely trying to syndicate In Living Color.
Some National Geographic film with some native woman with her boobies swinging all over the place. Oh, gosh, the horror.
Could I speak? Can I talk? Can I talk? At least, that might be bad, but at least I wouldn't have some white studio executive telling me what I can do with the final cut of my film. Let me show you a clip of the work I did before the studio got their hands on it.
I hate when these angry black people bring clips. They're never funny.
Your eyes are the thunder, and out of here I'll go. For I too am mad, and I bid you tally ho.
Tom, we're gonna show the. You should have did the Spike Lee ending. Wake up!
Well, anyway, let me show you what the studio did to that scene.
Yo, eyes in the Thunderbird. Get your butt out here so we can go. For I get mad and hit you. tacky hoe.
Now around this time too, Fox announced its new schedule for Tuesday night programming. And this was actually its first night of Tuesday night program that they announced on the election night of 1992, where they would have new episodes of Simpsons, Herman's Head, and they will also have like Martin and In Living Color reruns, you know, just to promote both Simpsons and Herman's Head. And around this time too, it was just like Fox was really getting more successful, and they were getting more versatility when it came to like their programming. And they were making like a lot of business decisions behind the scenes. This definitely had an effect when Keenen Ivory Wayans appeared less and less in the season. Like I mentioned, like the first season, the first episode of the fourth season, was actually his only appearance on that season. Fox was really gearing up for its sister channel that they were beginning to launch in 1993 called FX. And around this time too, you know, when it came to syndication, if they reach up to 100 episodes, that means it's valuable for it to be syndicated. And of course, Keenen felt like he was used as a tool. Him and his creative vision was used as a tool. Things reached a fever pitch when in late November, Fox canceled one of their shows called The Heights. And so Fox was planning on replacing The Heights with In Living Color the first season, which was like a special repackaged brand. And this did not sit well with Keenen because he said that he was told at 7:30 p.m. on a Friday, and that the plan was going to be announced on a Monday, and that reruns was going to start on Thursday. And he felt like this was going to be very bad for the show's syndication value, because it's like he felt like rerunning a show and rebranding it like the first season felt like the show was really peaked, and he felt like the best years was behind them. And around this time too, he was really thinking to himself like, what is he really doing, really? You know, he had given up a lot when it came to In Living Color. And to top it off, you know, Fox was really trying to make money off of his vision. And not only were they trying to make money off of his vision, they were censoring the show to make it more quote-unquote PC. So what had happened was Keenen Ivory Wayans decided to take a stand. So he had one of his master tapes, and he actually hid it in one of the ceilings in his dressing room. Keenen explains the incident as he said, and I quote, "I didn't physically hide the tape, but I told Kevin not to turn it over to tell them he couldn't find it. Kevin was the one that hid it in the ceiling," unquote. Yeah, man, pretty much, you know, the Fox executives came in the room. You know, they pretty much had like a standout talking about, you know, just give up the tape. And Keenen Ivory Wayans, he just pretty much said that, you know what, it's not even worth fighting over and shit like that. He just gave it up. And not only did he give up the tape, he just felt like he just gave up his vision, his vision, and he just pretty much gave up his creative desire, his creative need to like really continue with In Living Color. And so fast forward to December 4th, 1992, after the first airing of In Living Color the first season, Keenen Ivory Wayans called the cast and writers and pretty much said that he was leaving the show. He said, and I quote, "This isn't something I want to do, it's something I have to do," unquote. And he pretty much ended off saying, and I quote, "This won't be the last time you see me. We'll cross paths at a later time." The cast and crew was very shocked because it was just felt like, you know, Keenen was really the guy that set it off in motion. You know, he was really the guy that really put his family on, you know, put some of the greatest comedic minds, some of the greatest writers, you know, on the show. And what was interesting too was the fact that that night they had an episode they had to film. Now, it was a regular Christmas show, but then it was the last scene that really stood out because you had David Alan Grier, Kelly Caulfield, Kim Wayans, Shauna Marlin, and DJ Twist pretty much in the background just wearing shades and wearing hats, protesting Keenan's exit. And then the rest of the cast members and the Fly Girls, they were just selling their holiday wishes. And then you had Jamie Foxx singing, This Christmas. And even what was crazy about that too was, if you really watch closely and look at Alexander Wentworth, she looked shocked on her face and stuff, you know what I'm saying? And it was just like they had to actually nudge her to say, yeah, you're still on air. And she just pretty much just said, Merry Christmas, just forced that out there. So, we're watching that scene now. It just kind of gives you chills with what they were going through. And if you really notice, it was just like, dare I say, like the most serious scene in terms of In Living Color. And the fact that they really stood up for him, wearing shades and hats, just spoke volumes about that. Blood is thicker than water. So after that show, there was a going away party for Keenan Ivory Wayans, and pretty much, they really was trying to really expand the show now that Keenan was going, because Mark Wilmore, who would eventually be an official cast member in the 5th season, but he started making appearances in the 4th season. He pretty much said, and I quote, Fox wasn't forcing Keenan out because the network wanted to expand the show to an hour, quote unquote SNL.
Hi, I want to say Feliz Navidad to my family in New York City. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone. Merry Christmas, Mom and Dad, Grandma and Grandpa, family and friends, I love you. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all my family back in Jersey, and hey, Redshaw School in New Brunswick, New Jersey, and happy birthday, Jersey. She's a New Year's baby.
Thank you. And happy birthday to my sister. She's a Christmas baby, Jessica. I love you. Merry Christmas to my family and friends, Janet and Renee. And I want to wish a Merry, Merry, Merry Christmas to those who aren't as fortunate as we are. Merry Christmas, and God bless.
Hi, Grandma.
I'd like to wish a Merry Christmas to all the spineless little weaklings I had to crush to get where I am today. Now we have a special Christmas gift for you.
Hang on the mistletoe, I'm gonna get to know you better this Christmas. And as we trim the tree, how much fun it's gonna be together this Christmas. The fireside is blazing bright. Oh yeah, we're caroling through the night. And this Christmas.
After Keenan's exit from In Living Color, transition still happened because, after Keenan left, the Wayans slowly but surely started leaving. Marlon Wayans didn't really have a contract with the show, so he didn't have no issue just leaving right after Keenan left. And both Sean and Kim were still contract obligated to stay on In Living Color, but they appear less and less also. And it's kind of crazy too, because there was a skit they did on a different world, based off that, and Sean pretty much played, Dwayne Wade, Kid Named Hardison's character. And if you really watch that skit, Sean was pretty much like usual energy he had and stuff too,
All around the world, none of us is truly free.
Ron, you tried to hit on every girl in this school. Why don't you make up your mind, my brother?
But man, they all had awesome booties, man. All the little sweet honeys, man, they're awesome, man. Oh, wait.
My brother, sometimes I don't think you have a brain.
Well, I'll take that. Oh my God. What are you two doing here? You should have graduated years ago.
So, Mr. Gaines, that we must stay in school if our people will ever truly be free?
What was interesting was the fact that they were trying to also make Damon Wayans an executive producer for In Living Color, because, with Keenan gone, the ratings were slowly starting to go down. But, Damon Wayans, he also had his financial reasons and whatnot too, because he was going through, some money issues. and he just wanted to save up, and he ended up not taking the executive producer deal either. So with Keenen gone, and Living Color pretty much soldiered on without him, but the energy was not really all the way there, because it was just like a combative atmosphere to still work on. However, when it came to like the cast, with Kim Wayans and Shawn Wayans, used less and less, you started having more appearances from, of course, Takia Crystal Kima, and of course, David Alan Grier. They still held their own. Jamie Foxx was beginning to be one of the comedic forces on the show at that time too. And of course, Jim Carrey was still doing his thing. Of course, Mark Wilmore, he started appearing in more sketches around this time too. Alexander Wentworth was still doing her thing too. And it's interesting too because, Jim Carrey, he did an interview with the LA Times where he was asked about the exit of Keenen Ivory Wayans, and he said, and I quote, "Keenen and I butted heads against each other. He was going off and doing other things, and I felt the ship needed a captain. His heart just wasn't in the show anymore. You can't do a show like that halfway." And it's like I said, it's evident now. Jim Carrey noted that Keenen Ivory Wayans was just burnt out from doing In Living Color, but he didn't want to blame Keenen Ivory Wayans whatsoever, because even to this day, Jim Carrey has always been grateful that In Living Color gave him that push to do his own thing and to do his own comedy. And what was also interesting, when it came to season 4 of In Living Color, was the fact that you started seeing more transition between the racial sketches going into like more broader sketches, sometimes even crude humor. And this should be noted that there was like a lack of black writers, because with certain black shows there's always somebody feeling some type of way when their image is being represented in a way, what I'm saying? And with Keenen being the voice of the show, it spoke volumes, because with Keenan's voice it had many depth towards it, what I'm saying? That it didn't want to just make it like a black show. It wanted to make a show where they were making fun of all cultures and whatnot, and just showing like three-dimensional visions of like different stereotypes, what we see as stereotypes. Now, let me tell y'all something that y'all might not know about. Believe it or not, there was one comedian that ended up being very successful years later that was actually supposed to have been on Chappelle.
Charlie Murphy! That was cold-blooded!
Show around this time. Yep, Dave Chappelle wanted to be on the show, and he used to always hang around on the set and watch some of the tapings, and they never actually got him on the set, what I'm saying? Because of course, at the same time, Dave Chappelle was still new, he was still green at that time too, so yeah. Now when it came to the exits, Kim Wayans, I've always felt like that was like the most fucked up exit, because what had happened was she felt that the style of In Living Color was beginning to get more and more in tone with the fact that they were actually making fun of African Americans rather than just making fun of different stereotypes, and just giving like a clear vision about what the other world looks like, what I'm saying? And she said, and I quote, "The whole spirit had walked out the door. It was a bunch of scared people left trying to save a sinking ship. Nobody really knew what they were doing. The show felt adrift and desperate. It was no fun going to work anymore. I didn't want to be there." So one night, pretty much, Kim Wayans refused to leave her dressing room, and this was because of the fact that she refused to do like that sketch with the nosy neighbor, like y'all know what I'm talking about. And so, just similar like Keenen, she refused to come out of the dressing room to do the sketch because she felt like it was just disrespectful to African Americans and just coming out to stereotypes. And they pretty much said, if you don't do the sketch, we're gonna hold you to breaching of contract. And yeah, man, they pretty much had to get legal issues out the way. And Kim said, and I quote, "Do what you have to do. I had to get lawyers and all that stuff. Eventually, we wound up settling out of court. I was released from my contract, but not without some drama." Yeah, man, it seems like, you know, with all the Wayans slowly leaving and stuff like that, it was like the soul of the show was beginning to like disintegrate. And by the time like the show ended off its 4th season, they started. It should also be noted that Kelly Cofield, you know, the first white girl on the show, was also feeling that the show lost its edge, and she also left after the end of the 4th season as well too. And it's crazy too, because not only did she feel like the show wasn't really funny anymore and she didn't want to keep doing fart jokes, but there was also, and this is coming from Alexander Wentworth, that Alexander Wentworth felt that, you know, Kelly Cofield was pretty much envious of her as, you know, the only white female originally until she came out. And by the time like the show ended off its 4th season, they started like, and they had like more and more guest appearances of the show, which again we'll talk about more of that when we talk about season 5. Now, when we talk about season 5, you guys should really know that In Living Color was almost canceled by the end of the 4th season. You know what I'm saying? But they brought the show back as like a placeholder because they didn't really have anything better at that time, you know, to take its time slot. Now, when we get into the 5th season of In Living Color, we are, again, it's another transitional year, and it's a pretty different In Living Color than what we're used to. For one, we have like a new remix theme song, you know what I'm saying? Of course, like there's no Wayans and stuff. You had new cast members like Jay Laggett. You had Carol Rosenthal. And of course, you know, you had Anne-Marie Johnson, Anne-Marie Johnson, you guys should probably know her. She was famous on In the Heat of the Night, but she also had, you know, connection with the Wayans because she was on what's that movie? Hollywood Swingin', which, you know, Keenan Ivory Wayans helped write that movie with Robert Townsend and shit like that too. And, you know, around this time too, you know, Tommy Davison came back to the show. You know what I'm saying? And not only did Tommy Davison come back to the show, but the first director, you know, the first director from the first season came back from the show as well too. You know, Paul came back to the show. And another interesting fact when it came to the Fly Girls was the fact that Rosie Perez, who was the choreographer of the Fly Girls, and J-Lo had left the Fly Girls at that time too. And, you know, Rosie Perez, you know, she's always been cool with the Wayans, so her exit was not really a huge shock, you know, to be real with you. However, one of the interesting things about season 5 was the unofficial, and I use that keyword unofficial, addition of Chris Rock. Now, you guys should probably know that, you know, Chris Rock, he was at the time in SNL. You know, he was there with Chris Farley, you know, David Spade, Adam Sandler, and so on and so on. And Chris Rock, you know, there was this interesting sketch back in season 4 where Chris Rock was doing like a commercial. Well, not Chris Rock, it was actually Shawn Wayans portraying Chris Rock doing a commercial. And the commercial was like an American Express, and he tried to get people's attention, you know, saying, "Hey, how you doing? You know who I am?" But they kept saying, "Oh, I know you. You're that black guy from SNL," and stuff like that. And what was interesting about that sketch was the fact that they named all the black guys, like, you know, they said Eddie Murphy, you know, Damon Wayans, which y'all should know Damon Wayans was in SNL for like a brief second and shit.
What's up? I'm this? The anonymous express card.
All right, son. No loitering. This area is for cast members only. You'll have to move along.
But look, see, I'm in the cast.
I've never seen you on the show.
And this is Studio 8H, home to the hit Saturday Night Live.
What's this? Hey, folks. Excuse me. Anybody want an autograph? Who are you?
And Chris Rock pretty much felt a certain kind of way when it came to that sketch because of the fact that, you know, there's a lot of people who said that SNL didn't really give Chris Rock some of the best material in comparison to other casts like Farley or Spade or whatever, and felt like he was like the butt of the joke in Living Color because of the fact that, you know, he was like the only black guy there and shit too. And so after he left SNL, you know, he quickly did a few appearances on In Living Color, which again we'll talk about that. And which should be noticed that this was the decision for him to be on In Living Color by Peter Ross, who was actually at the time the head of 20th Television at that time too. Now, when it came to, you know, the 5th season as a whole, you know, the old cast, you know, they still blossomed, you know, they still did their thing, but, you know, there was like a lot more sketches where like certain cast members, you know, they couldn't all appear at once. You know, they had like a lot more pre-recorded sketches too. But, you know, despite, you know, this crazy stuff that was happening in season 5, it still has some heat, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna lie, you know. Matter of fact, like the first episode of season 5, I would say that's pretty much one of my top favorite episodes of In Living Color in general, because most of the sketches that they done in the episode hit right, you know what I'm saying? You know, it started off with David Alan Grier doing an Ike Turner impersonation, you know, because at that time, What's Love Got to Do with It, the movie had came out, and Ike Turner, you know, was getting scrutinized in the media and shit like that, and so David Alan Grier definitely did his thing on that. And then you ended up having the Def Comedy Strawberry Jam, one of my all-time favorite sketches in them. Whenever they do rip on Def Comedy Jam, I've always loved it because it was just like, that was the time when they would really like go loose and shit like that. And it was crazy because that sketch, you had David Alan Grier and Anne Maria Johnson playing like this conservative couple or whatever, you know, a play on like in those 50s nuclear families, and next you know they taste the jam and they start like cursing and shit like and then you had Tommy Davison and Takia Crystal Kima pretty much just arguing over, you know, leg on my egg. It's a classic sketch and shit, you know. And then of course you had a sketch where like David Alan Grier plays like some ventriloquist and shit. I mean, the whole episode was just one for the books and shit, you know. Like the 5th season definitely had some sketches that, again, you know, they definitely veered towards the more broader side, but it was still pretty funny and shit. Like you had sketches like Jim Carrey, he plays like this fetus that's like a grown ass man, Umbilical Larry, that's his name.
Hey, man, damn! You are now reading my magazine. You buy this in the library. You buy now. Get off my butt, man. No, you're kissing my butt. And I hope when you apply your lips.
Kids be putting all their waffles in.
Umbilical Barry, and pretty much, you know, he's like still connected to his mother, played by Carol Rosenthal. The legendary, in my opinion, All Up in the Family sketches, which, dare I say, both Mark Wilmore and Takia Crystal Kima, like if you close your eyes, you can really envision like Carol O'Connor and Gene Stapleton doing those roles. Like their impersonations were just so spot on and whatnot. of course, Jamie Foxx, he did his thing because he had that character, Duke in Cornbread, where he played like this old ass man with this dead dog, and like he swears like the dog is like the greatest thing since sliced bread, and it's like a funny ass sketch or whatever. What else? Like, oh, I forgot. When Alexander Wentworth, she played like this children's kids TV show, Candy Cane or whatever. In my opinion, her best role on that show, in my opinion. So, but despite what I mentioned, there was still some ish in season 5, which a diehard fan like myself will have to talk about. The fucking arc where Wanda was trying to find her baby daddy or whatever. I think that was like 6 or 7 episodes or sketches or whatever. I'm just like, really? Oh yeah, the Dirty Dozens, which again, I like the Dirty Dozen sketches, but they kept like reusing the certain jokes a couple times, and it got to a point where it was just like, yeah. But other than that, it was like season 5 was just like a mixed bag. It had some good, some mediocre, but in my opinion, and this is my personal opinion, like In Living Color at its worst day is still better than SNL at its best day. And that's my personal opinion, because if you watch SNL and stuff like that, pretty much sometimes I watch a sketch of SNL, I wonder to myself, how is this shit still on the air? Like, really? Like, sometimes it would make me laugh once in a while, but it didn't really have that punch for me, you know what I'm saying? And around this time too, Jim Carrey was working on, his movie career, and his movie Ace Ventura Pet Detective came out on February 4th, 1994, and it was like a huge box office success, grossing at $107.2 million with a budget of $15 million. And this was pretty much, Jim Carrey's breakout in films, because after Ace Ventura, he started, working on, of course, The Mask, which is a very dope movie, and then you had Dumb and Dumber, and of course, he had Batman Returns, which came out in 1995 too. So, Jim Carrey being a movie career and stuff like that, his time in Living Color became very limited, which I mentioned with the pre-recorded sketches, certain Carrey sketches were pre-recorded, but at the same time, the power to be at Living Color, they were very appreciative of Jim Carrey always being there when you need him, and especially when Jim Carrey signed on to the proposed 6th season of In Living Color. Now, speaking of that, it was just like around this time too, the fans of In Living Color, they pretty much were kind of getting kind of tired of the show, especially without Keenen Ivory Wayans, and even with Chris Rock being there too, which I've forgot to mention. His sketches at that time was regulated to his character in I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, where he played fucking the Cheap Pete, which that's another thing that kind of bugged me and stuff like that too, because it's with Keenen Ivory Wayans leaving In Living Color and shit too, and then they're gonna do and I'm Gonna Get You Sucker play on and shit. I just kind of felt kind of bothered by that in a way, and especially with this I'm Gonna Get You Sucker sketch, the Cheap Pete sketches and stuff. Personally, it got to the point where it just got old and tired, where it's just how much is this? Good Lord. It's okay, man, we get it. This is stuff personally you would expect from SNL or some shit like that, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, on its best day, In Living Color is the better show. So what ended up happening was at the fact that the oldest cast members and the newer cast members, they weren't really that cool with one another and shit, because it's like when you're in high school, you have like the popular guys, and then you had the less popular guys in one table and stuff. And Anne Marie Johnson in particular, she didn't really take too kindly with Jamie Foxx's attitude and stuff, you know. She said, and I quote, I didn't get along with Jamie. I think he was used to speaking to women in a particular way. He really tried to push the envelope, push the female button, and I had none of it. We did have words because I demanded a certain level of respect. I think he was trying to test me. I don't play that game. I wasn't afraid of him. Now I'm sure he's changed, but he was young. Unquote.
Don't you call me bitch, you little peanut man. Your ears are so big you can hear an ant fart.
You know, as the season, you know, grew and grew and stuff, the cast members' desire to leave the show pretty much got more and more known and whatnot. And with ratings going down, In Living Color tried to do one last ditch effort to really bring up the ratings. And they sketch was opposite, you guessed it.
I'm out.
What?
Yeah, I'm out of the contest.
Seinfeld. Now, around that time, like around the 1993-1994 season, you know, Seinfeld was the #1 show in the country, pretty much. You know, it was like a rating success, and it was always within this time slot. And this is what certain shows or networks do when they're tired of a certain show, especially if the certain show was responsible for like bringing in a lot of fans or whatnot. They would definitely try to put it opposite a very successful show at the time too, because the fact that they feel like that audience would still follow that show everywhere around. Now, Fox was still relatively new when it came to like the 1993-1994 season in comparison to NBC, and not a lot of people was able to get Fox really. And so putting it opposite Seinfeld was just horrible. It kind of reminded me when I was watching A Different World Unsung. I think Jasmine Guys talked about how when Bill Cosby, you know, the Cosby Show ended in 1992, and without the Cosby Show as a lead-in for A Different World, they pretty much threw The Different World in different time slots, and one of those time slots was opposite Martin. And you know, at that time Martin was, you know, a hot new show, and it was just like, again, just throwing it in different time slots just so the audience won't be able to find the show and whatnot. And they always do it to certain shows that they don't really care for or they don't really find a need for, you know what I'm saying? And it's interesting too because of the fact that, you know, they did a Seinfeld sketch in the first episode where pretty much it was just like, with that sketch, it was just like them poking fun of like how Seinfeld always like, you know, just his mannerisms and shit like that, the style of the humor. And if one was able to look at that sketch and look at like the ratings disaster it was opposite Seinfeld, one might go on to say that In Living Color was out of touch in a way. Fox president Sandy Grushaw explained the situation when she said, and I quote, "I don't think we were consciously throwing In Living Color to the wolves on Thursday, which every network had been known to do a frequent basis. It was more about believing the show had a core audience that would stick with it and help deliver some sort of decent rating. We were probably being very realistic about its performance, but very confident it was the best we were going to do on a highly competitive but high revenue night." Unquote. And so the results showed that, you know, In Living Color took a huge ratings dive when compared to Seinfeld, because, you know, Seinfeld at that time was ranging like 30 million, and In Living Color was ranging like about 12 million at most around that time too. And let's be real, a lot more white people love Seinfeld more, you know, than Living Color. But at the same time, it's not like In Living Color did not have a white fan base, because like what Keenan Ivory Wayans said, he didn't really see In Living Color as just like a black show. You know, he saw it as a show for everybody, because he feels like everybody can get something out of it, you know. And so by the time you get into the last episode of the 5th season, you know, it was just pretty much, you know, a shell of its former self, because like, you know, there was certain jokes where it was just like them saying like, and especially in like the Prison Cable Network sketch, where like Carrie came out saying, and I quote, "Good news from the warden, we just had our show renewed for another 10 years. And so it just felt like, you know, people saw In Living Color just like as a black equivalent to SNL, like it would run forever and ever. But what was interesting about that episode was, why would you have Salt and Pepper as a guest in Living Color, but not as a quote unquote musical guest? And get this, the last musical guest on the show was a group called To Be Continued. Wow. And Living Color was not renewed for the 6th season, and it was canceled in 1994. Didn't have no series finale, no send-off, just gone pretty much. But here's the thing, that wasn't the only show gone in 1994 by Fox. Fox also canceled Rock. They also canceled the Sinbad show. You know, they also canceled Robert Townsend's show too. And you know, there was like a lot of people who was saying that Fox was racist for just canceling the black shows. And it's funny too, because, you know, I always see that, you know, when certain networks, you know, they're trying to broaden out their fan base or their demographics, what do they always cancel first? The black shows or the minority shows. It kind of reminds me when in the mid 2000s, UPN and the CW pretty much, UPN and the WB, you know, was canceled. And then when they brought like the CW and the My Network, the black shows was slowly dying out and whatnot too. So yeah, man. So In Living Color was ended up being canceled in 1994. And while part of me didn't like the way how they ended off the series and shit, I personally felt like it was a blessing in disguise that it didn't run as long or get as tired as like certain other shows, sketch shows, excuse me. The only person who really didn't really care that In Living Color was canceled was, you guessed it, Keenan Ivory Wayans, as he felt like the show had died pretty much like a long time ago. Yes, man. This has been a very, very, very crazy, interesting story about In Living Color. A lot of things, you know, one might not know, but you know, what we do know is that In Living Color to this day is still one of the most impactful shows to ever grace television. It was one of the shows that really put Fox on the map. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't just The Simpsons and Married with Children. You know, In Living Color brought out a raw edge that was in your face, that was not like anything on TV since. You know what I'm saying? And they did try to reboot the show years ago, but you know, they said that they can't really get it right. And I kind of find that like a blessing in disguise, because I just feel like with certain shows or certain moments just happened in that moment of time, and Living Color was one of them. And with that being said, thank y'all so much for watching this video. Sorry it took me forever to finally release this episode, but better late than never. Peace.